Welcome to the Career Musician Podcast. My next guest is literally the music director to The Stars with Dancing with the Stars and I Can See Your Voice. Now, he started as the music director for Showtime at the Apollo with a 15-year residency there, as well as Saturday Night Live, and let's not forget American Idol. In addition, Ray Chu's work can be found across multiple networks, both in front of the camera and behind the scenes. We're talking about Ray's work with artists like Rihanna, Carrie Underwood, Pharrell Williams, Justin Bieber, Aretha Franklin, Lenny Kravitz, Pitbull, Queen Latifah, James Taylor, and the list literally keeps going and going. From the Hollywood Bowl in LA to the Nobel Peace Prize broadcast in Norway, Ray's in-demand sound can be found all over the globe. And the best part is we have him as a guest right here on The Career Musician featuring Ray Chu. Mr. Ray Chu, how you doing, brother?
All right, how you doing?
Good, man.
Yeah, I remember being. Yeah, there was a big show in Dallas somewhere. The last time I think. I saw you.
That's right. That's right. A big show in Dallas. I remember that. Gosh, that was probably over 6-7 years ago. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. We were co-producers with it was TD Jakes and some other stuff. Yeah.
Right, TD Jakes.
Steve Harvey. Right?
Yep. Yeah, Steve Harvey, of course. And, the funny thing is you and I have bumped into each other on airplanes, backstage a bunch of different times. So I just wanted to give you that connection. So now you know who the heck I am.
Nomad. All right, Nomad. What's going on, man?
Yeah, man. Well, super stoked to have you here at the Career Musician, man. So welcome. Thank you.
Cool. All right. Good.
I'm not sure if you know, but basically our mission here at the Career Musician is to empower up and coming, professionals with strategies for a sustainable career.
Oh, good.
As you and I know, it can be tough in this biz, So I'd love to start right there and just talk a little bit about how you got into music and then how your music journey has evolved.
Okay.
With Showtime at the Apollo, talk about such a legendary show. Maybe we start there, or tell us a little bit about how you got into the music business. And obviously you started way before that, I'm guessing, but you've done so much and there's a lot to cover. So let's start a little bit about your history.
Well, I'll give you my professional career. The journey started when I was 16 and I was plucked right out of high school to work with Melba Moore. And I went right on the road, and it was my mother supported me on that decision while I was still in music study. But I started right on the road at 16 with Melba Moore. And then at 19, I started working with Nick Ashford and Valerie Simpson. And they brought me on and they made me their music. That was my first music director job. The first, the long-term job as music director. And they also brought me inside the New York session scene, and they started having me work on their albums and other people's albums. And I started working on, and I got to be like a number one session musician, playing on albums with Diana Ross and Roberta Flack and Donny Hathaway, Teddy Pendergrass, Shaka, Grover Washington. I did all these great albums, as a session musician. And it was also during that time where I got my first start in television. And that was with Saturday Night Live. I was in the Saturday Night Live band during the Eddie Murphy years. So I tell you, that takes you way back. But I was a very young man doing this stuff, and it was a very exciting time for me. And so this is all before I got to the Apollo. But when I got to the Apollo, then that started a whole nother journey, because working at that place is, it's first of all, when you walk in the door, you can feel the spirits and the ghosts. So I separate those two, because, the spirits, you kind of get to feel something good and warm. Sometimes the ghosts be whistling in your ear and down your neck and give you, like some chills, So there's all in the Apollo Theater. And I worked that show and, of course, Showtime at the Apollo for about 15 years. And that really gave me a good idea and a good feel for, music and television and live, and the live circumstance of doing that, as well as my background at Saturday Night Live. So that prepared me for everything going forward, man.
Man, that's incredible. Talk about a storied, journey. I mean, just the fact, like you were saying about the Apollo. Okay, wow, we're talking about legendary Black culture, American history happening right there, live. And I remember watching the Apollo all the time and seeing you and the guys jamming out. And I would always say, man, I want to be in a band like that. I love that. And I like how you made that distinction between the ghosts and the spirits. That's beautiful, man. But yes, absolutely legendary acts. And I mean, Donny Hathaway, come on. Everybody. So incredible. At what point did you realize you're doing all these A-list sessions, like you said, in New York, then you're starting to get into TV, Saturday Night Live and the Apollo. At what point did you realize, okay, this is it. Like I'm kind of set. I think this is going to be my path for a long time. Or did it not happen like that? Was it just more organic?
Well, no, but for me, my journey was that there was only one path, and I've been touched by it's been the grace of God that this is this is what He set out for me to do, and I realized that at a very young age. But I also realized that it's not always that way for everybody else, and sometimes you have to some people have to take secondary jobs or do whatever they have to do. So I respect that. It just depends on what your journey is, right? And my journey was that, like I said, from high school, I was working every day from high school, and it's been one path. Right. And having said that, it's just the realization that, when you can bring talent, skills, and education, you bring that all together, it gives you an opportunity to have a career. That doesn't guarantee a career. That just gives you an opportunity. The rest is going to have to be, you and some prayer and getting out there and making it happen.
That's right, man. And I love that proactive approach. If you don't mind, let me ask you about that. Back in the early days, you said you had some people who were referring you for sessions. How do you handle work like that so that it's done in the most professional way? Somebody refers you for a session, or you're seeking work, you're trying to get gigs. What were some of the things that you did, especially back then, to make sure that you represented everybody properly?
Well, I had a lot of great teachers and mentors. My education started very young. My father played piano and vibes, and he would sit me on his lap at age 4 and stuff, and I'd start playing. And they brought me over to, I was raised in the Grant Projects, right down the block from Columbia University. And at that time, the Juilliard had a school on the campus of Columbia, where Manhattan School of Music is. And so they brought me over to that building and had me tested, and I got a scholarship to start my studies, the Vladimir Horowitz scholarship to start my music studies. And from that day, it's been music study. I went to every music school in New York, every music program. My mother made sure, and not only during the school year, but in the summertime, she had me study. I had a lot of great teachers, and they instilled in me, the kind of professional attitude that it would take. They would always bring me to the jobs with them, sit me on the side. They were all working professionals. One of my teachers, Warren Smith, he was legendary a percussionist, and he used to do Broadway, all kinds of stuff, recordings, and he would take me with him everywhere. My uncle, Merle Saunders, he was a great organist, and he was living in New York, and he lived with us, and he would take me everywhere and have me sit in with him at clubs and stuff at the very early as a teenager. So I got it. I knew what it was like to be a professional before I really got, my first professional gigs. And so I would say that, in speaking to young people, that, it's great because it also gave me a target. It's hard to go after something unless you have a target. And the target is either having somebody that you want to pattern yourself after, and somebody that you can help, and people that can help, give you information. It's all about information. That's what education is. It's information, and it's how you retain it. And because if somebody teaches you something and you don't retain it, then it's kind of useless, isn't it? Right?
Learn that lesson all over.
So
Yeah.
it's about retaining that, and it's also about how you apply yourself with the information that's given. So I was given a lot, and I was ready, man.
Man, I love the fact that you were thoroughly experienced in the academic aspect of music, okay, through all your school and college studies, but also, quote unquote, the real world where you go into gigs and stuff. I mean, that is truly the best of both worlds. Today, perhaps it might not be as readily available, especially post-pandemic as we're starting to come back, or, I don't know, for whatever reason. How do you recommend, what are some of the concepts that you would tell, again, aspiring pros to be diversified, to make sure that they have that versatility, but yet they're not too far off in the classical world where everything is so strict and regimented that they don't have the freedom to experiment with improvisation or some, R&B and pop and things, you know what I mean? Because you beautifully brought all of those genres together. That's a masterful tact in and of itself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know that when I first started my studies, and it was with classical music. My teacher would smack my hands if she heard me play like a jazz chord, because my dad played jazz piano. So I would before she come in the room, I'd play a little bit, and one day she busted the room and heard me play something. She's like, "No," I had an Eastern European teacher. Her name was Mrs. Prado, and I'm sure that was short for something longer. But anyway, she's from Eastern Europe, and she was, no, you never play that fat. You never play that again. I was like, whoa. And anyway, it certainly gave me an idea that some people view music with walls, and I don't. All right. So my education included classical, jazz, those are genres that you speak of because other people have walls and categories. I don't see it like that. Music is an experience for me. Anything that I can feel and internalize, I'm going to find out how to play it. Well, first of all, enjoy it, and then I'm going to play it because I love to play it. So it could be country, it could be classical, it could be anything. Go to the Middle East. I'll figure out an instrument and pick it up and play it. I'll figure it out just because I love to do it. And so it starts with the enjoyment of music first, and then the application.
I love it. Now, you mentioned the Vladimir Horowitz scholarship, and I know you're a conductor as well. So again, that's, mad respect, bro, because I love how you're doing it all, literally. It's so diversified. I know that you have been to the Hollywood Bowl, you've conducted there, and the Nobel Peace Prize broadcast in Norway. Talk a little bit of that, because again, now you're not necessarily behind the piano, you're conducting a full-blown orchestra. That's a whole nother, situation.
Wow, wow, you brought that up. Wow, I haven't thought about that. That was a crazy gig. First of all, I was working with Rihanna, and Rihanna was, she was doing, some spot tour things. We do a couple of weeks in Europe. We go here and there, and she was a pleasure to work with. I'm gonna take this moment to say I really love you, Rihanna. And the way you carry yourself and everything. Now, the call was that she was going to perform at the Nobel Peace Prize. It's a broadcast and a whole event. It's a whole, I think, several days of the whole thing. And so they for the broadcast they had they asked us to come and perform 2 songs with Rihanna. One would be, and they had 2 separate stages. And so one was, an up-tempo tune that she had dances with. And the other one was her ballad that she did that they asked me to orchestrate for orchestra. They had a 80-something piece orchestra that was part of the whole event. And so when they asked me to do that, I was fine. I took her ballad and I exploded it out and, and orchestrated. They said, well, you can conduct it as well. I was like, great. And so I was prepared to do that. We fly in, and when we flew in, you get get so disoriented because you get in at that in Norway at that time of the year. I think it was dark for many hours, and so I think I got in. And it was a long trip, and whenever I left, anyway, I just remember it was just dark at the time when it should have been light, and I said, "Wow!" And then I was tired, so I remember going to sleep, and then the phone rings, and they said, "Hey, listen, the rehearsal is going to be in a few hours. It's actually the rehearsal's tomorrow, right? Okay, so tomorrow, I want you to kind of follow the timeline." Yeah. So I get a call. I can't even tell whether it's day or night. I was tired. I picked it up and said, "We got a rehearsal tomorrow. Here's the situation. We have Rihanna on stage 1 performing her up-tempo song with dancers and stuff. And then she's got to transition from stage 1 to stage 2, which is all the way on the other side of the arena. It's going to take her several minutes to get over there, but this is a live TV broadcast. Wow. So Ray, can you give us some, music that you can have with the orchestra to kind of, to fill in the gap?" I said, "Sure." So, yeah, sure I can.
The answer is always yes, right?
Yeah. So for that, I woke right up, got my, and I was using, and thank God I was using Sibelius. That helped a lot. Yeah. So it just worked. That, by the way, Sibelius it helps, but it doesn't replace anything. You have to have orchestrating skills to do it anyway. So I started working on that, and I composed a 3-part suite right away. Wow. And got to conduct it. And so after she finishes one song, then I run over and run across the stage, and I conduct this 3-part suite while she's riding in the back to get to the other stage. And it was a great moment. I enjoyed it, but that was kind of a crazy thing, and I was like, I had to do that overnight, so.
Well, that's incredible, but we got to park there for a minute because I want to unpack that for some folks. I want to draw an analogy. Okay, so what you did there, first of all, I love the fact the answer is always yes, right? No matter how exhausted we are, no matter how overextended, whatever, people don't care about our little personal situations. Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir. We'll get the job done, whatever it takes, because that's how you keep getting the calls back, right? It's just part of what we do. We love to serve, right?
And I like to eat.
Yeah, see, exactly. But here's the thing. So you're groggy, like you said, traveling overseas is always, that's rough anyway. You get the call, "Hey, we need this piece of music." So you you did 3 parts. You composed the music, you arranged the music, and then you performed and conducted the music. Okay, so the analogy I would like for people to understand is that's like being the person who designs the car, the person who builds the car, and then the race car driver who drives the car. You automatically assume all 3 roles. You do it seamlessly. I mean, that's amazing. That's an incredible feat.
Yeah, that you brought that up. I hadn't thought about it in years, but it was really, it called on every skill that I have
exactly
to make it happen.
Yes,
like you said, you have to, not only do you have to, because the first part of it, I was still playing. I was playing keyboard, and I was her band leader, right, music director for her for a while, and then I have to run over and conduct the orchestra and deal with all of that, and so it was it was really great, and I was glad to be able to employ the wonderful skills and gifts that God's given me.
I love that. Now let's transition a little bit. So from that type of music creation work to more studio and television music creation work, I understand that you built like custom made music trailers that you use for various shows. And obviously you do a ton of TV work. So how have you developed, it sounds like you developed like your own little trailerized system for all of the TV bumpers and things like that?
Well, there's two things. For the past year, when the whole COVID-19 thing hit, that whole period, there was a need to find a way to address doing music and doing your stuff in the production in a safe way. I was right when it hit. We were right in the middle of a production of a show that I'm working on called I Can See Your Voice. And it's a brand new show on Fox. It's a brand new hit show.
Love that show. Man, I was just telling Teresa, my family and I, we watch it religiously. We love it. That and Dancing with the Stars. So, I mean.
Well, we just went into production for our first season, and the whole thing, when it hit, we had to shut down. Right. Now that the shutdown was always had to be temporary until we could figure out how to get back on. When we figured out how to get back on, it was incumbent upon us to do it in a safe way. Well, normally in a TV production, you have everybody. You can have about 100 plus people, technicians, electricians, blah, 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 audio people, hair and makeup. Everybody's kind of interacting, running past each other in the hallway and inside the main, studio room. But during the COVID thing, you can't have that. So they pull everybody out and have quarantined areas where only certain people can go. And, it made it very cumbersome to try to do your job like that. What I developed was my own music production trailer that I could bring from studio to studio that has all my tools in it. And I can record, mix, and finish the music as needed and plug it right into any system. And so
amazing.
That's why I developed that.
Wow. Okay. Now I really understand the concept of what you did. That's beautiful. That's amazing. So you can literally just pull up to any production, plug into their output, their main line out, and you're good to go. Right. And
their program feed and some of the other lines of communications, the comms, they call it. And yes, I could plug right into any production and be able to be completely interfaced as needed. So that's the thing. And I used it on I Can See Your Voice, and I also used it on the past season of Dancing with the Stars. Right. Usually, and again, Dancing with the Stars, usually we have a live band that's right there in the ballroom. This season, we couldn't be in the ballroom. We had to be in a remote setting, and we had to, produce the music differently. And that's when I used my trailer system as well.
That's so cool. And I'm glad you brought that up. I was going to ask you again, when I started watching I Can See Your Voice, I'm like, man, that has to be a live band because they're killing it. Like you guys are just so on cue, but you can't really tell at first because we never see the band. Unlike Dancing with the Stars, where you guys are up on that stage, behind the dancers. Do you have a preference? Do you prefer being, at a satellite location, or do you like being right there, behind the performers?
Oh, I like being in the studio. I like being right there. It's when we're looking to go into our 13th season of Dancing with the Stars. Wow. And so that was this past year was the first time we were not in the ballroom. And it felt really strange doing that show because that show, it's live on the air. Everything is happening, the dance, the lights, camera action. It's so, I have to tell you, it is very exciting doing that show. When, doing live TV like that, man, that gets you flowing because, first of all, there's no such thing as, oops. You better find a way to, if you hit a funny note on the guitar, you better pull that string and make it sound right.
It's either a half step up or a half step down to get to the right one, right? You got to find it.
It's somewhere.
Somewhere there. So, okay, that's so cool. I'm glad you said that because I was going to ask you about a day in the life, especially for musicians who might not be familiar what it's like to produce and perform at such high levels. I know I've had some limited experience in TV and live productions. Like I said, you and I have met on the road. I was working with Babyface. You were working with a whole slew of other artists. So I, from my own perspective, I know what it's like that, like you said, that energy, the hustle and bustle, a lot of it is hurry up and wait. But when you're in production, what does a daily day look like for you? What's your daily schedule on a production day?
Good. So I'm going to give you a Monday. So Monday is our broadcast day. the other days are prep days, and we can kind of rehearse according to a schedule, and we're preparing. The production days are the full production days means that it's not only you, but there's also cameras and everybody else. When it's that kind of, that amps the level. Everything is down to the second. Even the rehearsals, we can't go over, can I do that again? There's none of that. You better be right at rehearsal as well. So the day in the life of Dancing with the Stars starts at 5:30 in the morning. We're on set. We're starting at 5:30. Not arriving, not putting your horns together. We're starting music at 5:30. So, I require my band members to get in at a specific time before that. I said you can come anytime before, but not after. Okay.
That's right.
Come as early as you want. Don't come after. All right. And so that it starts there, and we would do a rehearsal from 5. We rehearse 10 pieces of music for the that they're doing dance routines to, and during that time we're also integrating all of those parts in with the audio team, so they know what's coming at them. We rehearsed that, and they're aware of what's coming out, but now they get to hear it in full with everything. At 8:30, so that's 5 to 8. We take a little break, like 15-minute break. 8:30, here come the dancers. And one by one, we have to go through all the routines. But by the time we finish working with them, it's about almost noon. And there's a mandatory lunch break. And then we come back at about 1, and we do a full dress rehearsal with all parts. Everything's going to happen just the way the broadcast does. That goes from about 1 to about 4. After 4 o'clock, I go into the music truck to check the balance. They record the rehearsal. And so I'm going to check and make sure everything is sounding, according to plan. And we have to make any kind of adjustments. I get notes from the executive producers. Hey, Ray, we need you to make an adjustment here, there, tweak there, or even a wholesale change, And they have done that, right before broadcast. And then we take a little break. And then now we have to, after being there for 12 hours, from 5 to 5, now we got to look fresh and crisp and tight, and we're live on the air at 5 o'clock, Los Angeles time. So, and then then it's a 2-hour show, and then that's it.
So you're not leaving the lot until pretty late that evening. You have
well, it's 14-hour day.
Yeah. Wow, that's
12 to 12 rehearsals, and then 2-hour show. Hey, this is Ray Chu, and you are listening to The Career Musician with my man Nomad at the control. He knows what he's doing. It's ready. It's hot. Listen up.
Follow The Career Musician on Instagram and Facebook.
Help us continue to provide you with new and engaging content by getting our ratings up. Please subscribe and leave a review on Apple Podcasts.
And so congratulations, first of all. You said you're going into your 13th season.
Correct.
Incredible. 15 years at the Apollo, 13 over here. You got a new show that, like you said, is another hit. And then you have so many different projects that you're juggling. And then from what I understand, you also have an upcoming studio project that's debuting this summer. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right. It's called Be the Light. And it's a project that brings communities together. And this was born out of, especially since that same period where there was a lot of social strife, and last year and before that.
Yes.
And there was a need that we felt to just do something to address what we all live in socially political areas. And they say politics is local. Yeah, politics is local as it affects you. And so we were very affected, and we wanted to make sure that our response is that we're bringing people together. So the Be the Light project brings. It was born out of that but also out of our relationship with Ozzie Schwartz in the Park Avenue Synagogue. They're good friends, and Kent Ozzie Schwartz is a great tenor, and he's sung with us on some of our productions at Carnegie Hall. And that's a whole nother conversation, our relationship with the great institution of Carnegie Hall. And so during that time, we really had a great affection for him. And then we decided, hey, let's do something between the Jewish community and the gospel Christian community. And so that's what the Be the Light Project is. It's coming together of communities. And I can't wait. We're almost done. It's going to be released soon.
Is it an audio production or a video production or both? Or
it's an album project. Yeah.
Okay. Beautiful.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right. And then that's perfect segue to what you and your wife have created with your foundation, the Power to Inspire Foundation, helping young music creatives achieve their dreams. I can't help but notice the synergy between our mission statements here. So first of all, I can't wait to hear all about it. Second of all, whatever you need from the Career Musician, please let us know. We'd be happy to help in any way possible.
Well, I'll tell you what, we're going to sign you up as one of our mentors because you'll be perfect.
Yeah.
And this is, like you said, this is great synergy between missions. Our mission with the Power to Inspire program is to bridge the gap between those who have had, the music education and that could be in a colloquial sense, or it could be in a formal sense. All right. But you're seeking to get into the professional ranks. And what do you do and how do you do it? Those have been the biggest questions when I travel around the country and around the world, and people, would speak to me, young musicians, about how do I get from where I'm at to where you're at? I'm saying, okay, great. Listen, I'll be happy to help you. And yes, there's several steps, and there's one specific one. The one specific one is that you have to, again, create a mission and a target of your own. And that's with a dream and a desire. A dream and a desire, you have to break that down into missions. You have to break that into tasks. And you have to break that into something that you could do on an everyday basis. Yeah. But along the way, you need help. Like I got help. I had plenty of help. I've had lots of help from great mentors, teachers, and people that saw in me some things that perhaps I didn't see in myself. And so that's what our program looks to do. We look to recognize some wonderful talent and try to help motivate and inspire and give them some real tools for mentors like yourself. And so we're going to be calling on you. We had some great mentors last year in the summertime. Okay. We're going to be looking to make sure that we can bring in some new mentorship this summer.
Absolutely, man. I can't wait. I'm super stoked about that. One of the things I love, like you said, you had help. I had help. I believe everybody who's had some measure of success in their careers or life in general has had help along the way. And sometimes we don't even realize it. Like I have to take stock sometimes and realize, oh, wow, I had this teacher, I had that teacher, that friend, that family member, and so forth. So yes, the answer is yes. I want to help in every way possible. I love that.
Yeah. Nobody gets to the top or to any position without some help.
That's right. That's right. And I also love what you said about, differentiating between your dreams and your desires, breaking it down into little mission statements, little smaller goals, but then building an actionable plan. And that's where I think so many people, I don't want to say miss the mark, but they perhaps don't figure it out, because you have to do something on a daily basis. Like you said, it's got to be that daily consistent routine, right?
That's right. And it's also, again, it's the same aspect, listen, I embrace God and my spiritualism.
Yes.
And that Jesus is my savior. And I pray, and I've prayed over my life, my career, and my walk.
Yes.
But during prayer, that's not enough. This is a co-production. And, because you can pray all you want, that if you can pray for a ham sandwich, It's not dropping out of the sky like that. That's not the way it works. All right. So you have to get out there and you have to put all these components together. So if you want to pray, yes, go ahead and pray, because what that does, that's going to galvanize your spirit. And that's going to galvanize your spirit and your whole system to point towards your goals. In the meantime, go ahead and get some training. Go ahead, and if you don't read music, learn how to read music. Right. I have to tell you that I've encountered, I remember being on the road with maniacs. And I've had many years on the road and doing that, and running into young musicians. And I said, they were talking about some of the stuff they might have seen me do. And they asked about, well, some of them would say they don't read music and everything. I said, by the way, what you have is talent. And you have a great talent. Reading and being musically literate is a skill. It's an acquired skill. It's an acquired skill that you can start now, and in 1 year, you can be pretty good at it. And in 2 years, you can be very adept at it. So a lot of young musicians get scared off by that because they don't have the skill at that moment, that they won't be able to employ it as a professional. And I have to say, that's just not true. Anybody that's listening to me, that's not true. All right? Because anybody, if I gave you, and some of them, whizzes at video games. I don't play not one video game, by the way. I don't play. I've never played video games, right? But I know people who do, and they would sit there for hours and hours and hours and putting, and I would say to them, that's really wonderful. And you're pretty damn good at that. You could be just as good at reading music if you put some hours into that. All right. So anyway, that's my little spill on that.
No, man, bro, stay on the soapbox. I love it. I love it. And I love how you package that. It's a co-production, raw talent and acquired skill. It goes hand in hand. And it's a biblical principle, a universal law. You got to put your hand to the plow, right? You can't just wish for it. So, man, dude, I love that. I always knew I liked you, even though we only spoke in little bits here and there. But now that we're really talking, I'm like, man, you're my mentor. That's it. Done deal. Okay. So listen, you just dropped some serious wisdom on us and knowledge and some beautiful stuff. And it goes perfectly what I always ask each guest to wrap things up. How do you define success?
That's a wonderful question. That's one of the things that I address. Success is defined by you reaching a destination that was important enough for you to make that a destination. All right. Success could be 2 years ago, I had busted my Achilles playing my final game of basketball, by the way. Final. Never touching the ball again. All right. I busted my Achilles, but it was impossible for me to walk. All right. I had crutches. I had this. And so success for me during that time was just getting around from point A to point B. Right. That was a successful day. If I could just get through the day, without pain and agony and try to, achieve all of the tasks that I'd set up. So success has to be broken up and not to one big dream. But again, this is where I like the subdivision. Subdivide that. Make success a daily basis, an acquisition of the tasks that you set for yourself. You can give yourself a successful hour. Give yourself a successful day. And then let that add up into a successful week. You know what I mean? And it doesn't, because you didn't reach them all, doesn't mean you didn't have a successful week. A successful week can mean maybe I got 8 out of 10 things. I set a 10, a goal of 10 tasks, and maybe I got 8 out of 10. Well, then that's success. That's 80%. Yeah. All right. Yeah. And so, you don't want to beat yourself up too much, but you want to continue to find ways of motivating and inspiring yourself and getting inspiration from others like me and yourself.
Man, bro, excellent. It's so perfectly said. And I love how you draw parallels to music all the time, with the co-production and the subdivisions. That's brilliant. I mean, look, not only were you meant to be a music creation of music and a music maker, but you were also made to be a teacher, a lecturer, a speaker. Really, this is beautiful information that people listening, I hope you take this to heart, take notes, come back to it, and keep listening, because Ray Chu is the man doing it in real life, and you've been doing it for a long time. One thing I didn't get a chance to talk to you about real briefly, again, and I'll let you go. I love your lineage, about your last name and your father's father, who was Chinese. Talk a little bit about your heritage and your culture, and of course, African American. I mean, yeah, that's a beautiful story in and of itself.
My grandfather, or my father's father, came from China and emigrated in the early 1900s and he settled in Harlem. Now, by the way, they created a law, just like, when they are intent on trying to keep people in a place, they'll create a law to justify that. So the law they created for Chinese immigrants, because at that time they felt that they were whatever they felt. I'm not even going to go into that mindset. Yeah. They created a law that Chinese immigrants could only work and have their restaurants, Chinese restaurant or Chinese laundry. So that's why you would always see all these Chinese laundries and Chinese restaurants, because they would not let them work other jobs. How about that?
Wow.
My grandfather, not only did he have a Chinese restaurant, but he had one that felt like it was during the Harlem Renaissance. So he had a really, really lavish, nice place. So he was a real entrepreneur, and the ladies loved him, and he found this wonderful Black lady from Virginia, and they had my father. So they were married for a couple of years, and they split. Yeah. So my father didn't really have a real relationship with his father. So he knew about him. He knew what he was. They saw each other from time to time. So I never really got to know my grandfather. His name was Henry Boy Chu, all right? Right. And I seen the symbols, how it's spelled. So I'm missing, there's a hole in my heritage that I'm missing. On my mother's side, they're from the South, from North Carolina, Fayetteville, North Carolina. And their lineage would extend, of course, during the African diaspora and the slave trade and all of that. So there's, I'm very curious to learn more about it. We've been trying to, we've registered, with the 23andMe and the other ones like that, trying to find out more about it, because I have some Chinese cousins and uncles and nieces and nephews that I just don't know about. And I'm very curious. Now, I've also been contacted by a lot of people with the last name of Chu, hey, are we related? And then unfortunately, I probably have to say probably not, because unless, because mine is directly with my Chinese grandfather. So it would have to be if he was married and had children after that, then possibly we could be related. Anyway, that's the lineage.
I love that. And that spelling was CHU, right?
CHU, that's correct.
Right. And now it's CHEW.
It's CHEW only because, the jerks in immigration, when they want to change something, they just change, he said, what's your name? Henry Chu. And they just write CHEW instead of asking how to spell his name, About that.
So look, in this time, we need love. And I love the Be a Light Project and the Power to Inspire Foundation. I love the fact that you are an African-American man with Chinese descent. In your opinion, or just, in your experience, how can we share more love? How can those who aren't African-American support the Black Lives Matter movement? How can, different people from different races, how can we all support one another? Any light that you want to shed on that concept?
Yeah. I think as soon as we realize that we have more in common than we have not in common. The other thing is that it's a shared interest in humanity.
Mm-hmm.
When people see that man gasping for air, you have to be able to see your uncle's face there as well. If you can't see somebody see him as a human being, then that's where the problem is. And so we have to see that we're all on this wonderful planet, this little blue planet floating around in our solar system, and there's no other place to go. We're all, you know what? And my analogy is, if you think we're so different, remember when the concept of the War of the Worlds? If somebody was flying down from another planet and intent on attacking us, they're not going to separate the blacks from the whites. They're coming to get, humans, right? And so we're all humans, and then there we go. There goes our path. There goes our struggle. And finally, God didn't create people to be different. Come on, that's not. Are you serious? Anybody that thinks that, you just got it wrong. So God said this one's going to be, the white one's going to be superior to, stop it. Come on. Stop it. So, and then there are some people that you just cannot reason with. All right. And if they're so intent on seeing the differences, then I'm not speaking to them. I'm speaking to those who can be reasoned with, that want to see humanity in all of us. And I think there are more of those people than there are those I'll put on that hater category. And that's I want to appeal to those people, see the humanity in all of us, black and white. And then, because, yes, some people go, I want a colorblind society. Well, that's not even necessary. What we need is a more compassionate society that says, I don't care what your color is. I don't care whether you're Jewish, Italian, French, or whatever. You're still my brother in this world. Thank you, and I love you.
Amen, brother. All I can say to that is amen, brother. My father's from Cuba. My mom's third generation Italian, so I'm a Cuban Italian. Excuse me. My daughter is half African American. We love it. We're a big culture pot here, like a gumbo. And once again, so well said. The other thing you said, I love, we're on this little blue earth spinning around in the middle of nowhere. Come on, man. I mean, when you really zoom out.
That's right.
Things.
Exactly. We're all earthlings. How about that?
That's right.
Let's agree on that. Let's agree that we're all earthlings. Now, if you want to talk about what kind of earthling died, that's up to you. But we're all earthlings. That's a fact. All right. Now, here's the other thing that I discovered when I did the 23andMe, and they give you back this report about your DNA. Yeah. My DNA was mapped over the entire world. First of all, from my grandfather who's Chinese, and that was broken down into all of these. I was like, wow, look at that. Wow. And then my grandmother, my father's mother, she was from Virginia, but then there was a whole lot of lineage there. And then, of course, my grandfather from my mother's side. Yeah. So we were mapped all over the place. I mean, the numbers were like, there was some European 20% this, blah, 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 10% that. I was like, you know what? And in that sense, and I watched his show called Finding Your Roots by Henry Louis Gates. Every time he breaks down anybody, all their DNA is all over the place, which tells you that, again, there's no such thing as a pure anything. That's right. We're all interconnected, and we all have the blood of many different species of people, or whatever you want to call them. There's the blood of many in our veins. So we're all human beings.
I love it. Ray Chu, such an honor. Okay, I know I said this 3 times. I promise, Teresa, this is the last time. Can we do a rapid fire question real quick?
Do it. Let's go.
Just fun stuff. Last movie you saw?
Wow. yes, Ron. Unfortunately, I don't get a chance to see too many movies, but I think it was was it Folsom Station? Was that station where they had the tragic event?
Oh yes. Okay.
That was All right.
Okay. Guilty pleasure.
Guilty pleasure. Oh man. Well, sake.
Nice. Hidden talents.
Hidden talents. Pool and sometimes golf.
So you're a pool shark.
Well, I could play pool. I could pick up a pool cue and I could take your money.
Nice. Favorite decade of music.
I would say 70s.
Love it. Top 3 touring essentials. So when you go on tour, what are the 3 things you must have?
Keyboard, good underwear and socks. Make sure you have some underwear and socks, a couple of changes of clothes. And I always have a little keyboard somewhere I can play and plug my headphones in.
There you go. You're ready to rock. Song or band that changed your life?
Earth, Wind, and Fire.
Yes, sir.
Hold on. Earth,
Wind,
Fire.
Look at that.
Right, so.
He's got the tattoo on his left shoulder. That's awesome. Beautiful. All right. Your friends would say you are?
My friends would say that I am many things. There's no one right shoe, but there's the one that shows up is the one that you got. And I'm here. And I'm dedicated and I'm on point with people and I'm fair and I'm honest and I'm straight up. So they'll say I'm straight up.
See, yo, I get the same thing. You know why? Because I'm a New Yorker too.
There you go. I'm straight to it.
I love it. I was going to say your favorite city besides New York, because I know that's my favorite.
My favorite city. Well, one of my favorite cities is France. I love France.
Okay. And now you've collaborated.
Paris.
Okay. It's country, city. That's all I'm saying. Yeah. Well, sorry. You've collaborated with so many greats, legendary acts and amazing superstars. If you had one dream collaboration that hasn't happened, who would that be?
Celine Dion.
Beautiful. Oh, ironically, I got to play on one of her albums.
Oh, beautiful.
Cool. Well, that's one of the ones that I have against like all the millions that you have. So, all right. And finally, drum roll. Here we go. What would you do if you weren't a career musician?
Wow. I had never given that any thought because it's only been one path, but I'd say that I'd have to be, I could be a lawyer.
Yeah.
Oh, I could be a preacher. One or the other.
I can see both of that, man. That's perfect. Perfect. Once again, Mr. Ray Chu, it is an honor to have you here on the Career Musician Podcast. Myself, I'm so grateful, and I'm sure the listeners will be as well.
Thank you for having me. All right.
Absolutely.